After setting your model axis, your next step is going to be to start designing the restoration. One of the first things that I'm going to show you is I personally trim area. This is like using a saw blade to cut and expose the mesial and distal margins. This does come into play every once in a while if you're having problems seeing the margins. It's very quick to do, but it is an optional step. It's always an optional step whenever you see that we have this white line under where it says trim area. I don't have to do that. I could go directly to draw margin, but I want to really trim it, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to left single click on trim area. Then I'm going to center click and blow up the model. And as you can see on the top right hand side, we now have tools opened up. And on these tools it says manual trim, discard part, invert selected, and then undo or reset. To start, you're going to start with a double left click. It locks it where your cursor crosshairs are. You have a blue tail. Make sure that tail is either pointing away to the bottom or to the top. You just don't want it to go across a margin. So I'm going to start up here, and you can see it's very easy to do because I've opened this up by just moving and blowing up the restoration. I start with a double click. Now it's a double left click, and it's now locked where the cursor used to be. You can see how the blue line is moving around. We're going to ignore that. I normally go about halfway between the two teeth, give a single locking click, and then go the rest of the way through and end with a double left click. Sometimes you don't have to do the single locking click. It's just if it's a tight embrasure. So I'm going to end up with a double left click. And as you can see, it shut and cut off the adjacent tooth. Now, if you look up here where it says invert selected, if I left click on invert selected, it selects the other side that was cut. Every once in a while, what this machine does is it saves the largest piece. So if this piece is larger, then it saves it. If it's smaller, it will cut it off. So in this case, it cut the correct piece off. And I can also put my cursor on the model and double left click. And as you can see, that does the same thing as invert selected. So I'm going to put my cursor on what I want saved. I'm going to double left click. Then I'm going to right click, draw this over where I can feel it, and then I'm going to left click and hold and roll the ball. So as you can see, I'm rolling so I can see interproximally very easily. I still have my trim area is open. So I'm going to start with a double left click, and it doesn't matter if you start at the top or bottom. I'm going to start with a double left click, single click to go through, and then end with a double click. And when I do this, you're going to see that it actually cut the wrong side off. And the reason why, if I shrink this down by center clicking, holding, and rolling the ball, you can see this portion of the model is larger, and it's written in the program to keep the largest portion. I can go back and hit invert selected, or I can double left click just on the ghost appearing restoration, whichever you'd like to do. If you make a mistake, let's say this was on and somehow you hit discard part. Well, you threw away the wrong section, so you can now go back and hit reset, and it will bring everything back. If I would have hit undo, it would have gone back one step. So undo goes back one step, reset redoes everything. So I'm going to, again, center click and blow this up. Now again, you can see down here, trim area is beige. It doesn't have green or red line. It is optional. So I'm going to double left click. I'm going to go through. I can see that the tail is past everything. It's not going to cut anything off. So I'll double left click, and now it saves the correct side. I'm going to roll the margin, or roll the model, and run it through again. Double left click, and then I'm going to double left click on the portion that I need. At this point, trim area is completed. I'm now going to click on Draw Margin. I'm going to left click on Draw Margin, and as you can see, we have the trimmed model. I'm going to again blow this up, and then to draw the margin, I'm going to turn on a tool, and if I turn the tools on, you can see that it's either auto or manual. Manual means you have to draw everything. Auto is the machine will draw it for you. Whenever you can, try to use the automatic. Now to demonstrate, you can see the cursor is on the bottom right corner. I'll wiggle it around a little bit. And if you put that so the crosshairs are just slightly inside the margin, then you start with a double left click. Everything starts with Cerec with a double left click. And then I'm going to start drawing the margin. When you draw the margin, keep your cursor inside. You can see how far inside I'm going. It's looking for a drop-off, and that's why you have to do very good dentistry. You want to always either pat cord or use a laser to create some sort of a trench like we talked about in our lecture on preparation. As you go along, let it find it, and if you go too far, what you'll see happen is the line will actually jump to the other side. You see how it jumped to the other side? Well, I'm going to go back and put the cursors. Now this time I'm going to put it right on the margin. And what I'd like you to watch is the red dot on the bottom right hand portion. Because when I single click to lock this line, it's going to turn it blue, and then the red dot will actually jump down to the margin. This is very important because if you start too far off, it will cause the margin to be down into the gingival sulcus instead of on the tooth. So I'm going to left click, and you can see how the red dot jumped to the margin, and then I'm just going to draw the cursor, and again I'm staying inside. Let the machine find the restoration or find the margin. If you do your job of cutting a good prep, this is how easy it is to use. I'm going to double left click, and what that now did is it locked my margin in place. I can left click and roll and look at this to make sure that it is on the margin. As you can see, because this is supragingival, it found everything very well except for this area right here where there's a little dip, and that is because of the little bit of gingival tissue that is showing through. To fix this, I'm going to go to, it's manual, but it does it automatically. I'm going to start with a double left click away from my defect, and then I'm going to place this where the margin is, single click it until I get past the defect, and then end with a double click. As you can see now, it's on the margin. I can also, because if I turn on display objects, remember with display objects, we have trimmed model, upper jaw, so I can turn these on and off if I need them. And under analyzing tools, I also have model box. So as you can see, here's the model box, and I can left click and shut the model box off if it was turned on. And now I can look from underneath, and every once in a while this actually helps with drawing of the margins to make sure that they're in the right location. Not always, but in this case, because the machine found it, I would leave it and just say that that is very good. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do this manually. And manually is not as accurate. So I'm going to reset this, which takes that margin off, and I'm going to go to manual. Again, that's under tools. I'm going to go to manual. I'm going to start, and this time I want to start right on the margin. And I start with a double left click. And now, if you can see that white line, it draws a straight line. So obviously your tooth is not straight. So in order to bend this, I'm going to give it a single click, and you can see how I can now make this make curves. If you have made a click and you want to go backwards, you don't have to undo it. You can right single click, and when I right single click, it goes back to my last single click point. So I'm going to right click, right click, right click, and I'm just right clicking, and I'm going back to where this was. I could also obviously go up and hit undo, or I could hit reset. Undo does the same thing. It goes back one step, just like a single right click. Now I'm going to demonstrate how you would do this and why would you use manual margins. Sometimes if your gingival tissue is at or above your margin, the automatic margin finder will not see a drop off, so it's going to have a hard time finding it. Because of that, you're going to go by colors. So I'm going to draw this, and I can see the differentiation of the colors. So I'm going to start right on the edge with a double left click. And now what I do is I normally will pull the cursor up and then just bring it back and lay it on the margin. So I bring it until I can't go any farther. And as you can see, I'm trying to curve this. And I just fell off. I'm going to leave it just so you can see that. You can see this does take a little bit more time. It's probably not as accurate because the automatic margin finder does this by algorithms, so it's all by mathematics. It's looking for that drop off. Again, I'm single clicking. If you make a mistake and you know it, I can right click to go backwards and then resume. Now, doesn't look too bad except for right here, but if you roll this, you can see that I've fallen off in this area. Doesn't look like I'm on over in this area. So there's a lot more editing to do when you use manual margin finder. You may not be able to help using it because of your pictures or because of your prep, but if you do really good dentistry, try to create this drop off and not go subgingival. It'll be much easier for you. So I'm going to start with a double click, and I can see my margin line here. So I'm going to just go past where it fell off, and with a double click. Now I can roll this around and look and say, uh-oh, it fell off over here. So I'll put it back on. Here's another location. And another one, and again it fell off here because it was interproximal. And if you didn't trim this, this would be very difficult for you to try to repair. So I've drawn that manually. When I draw things manually, I really like to check upside down. So you can see I would be a little concerned, and I would think that, well, I really think that this margin is a little bit further over here. And if I go back here, I think it's in this location. So then we'll roll it over and look from the other sides. And this is just something that takes a little bit of time. And First I thought it was over here. Let me look from underneath. And that actually looks very good. Might be able to move this just a tiny bit. And we'll look at the buckle. And it appears that maybe right in this area. So you can see manual margin finder is a lot more work. Leaves more room for error. That's why it's so important to cut a really, really good prep. But of course, again, if you go subgingival because you're chasing caries or decay or an amalgam, you're not going to have much luck with the automatic. So this just takes a little bit more time. And then once you're happy with this, you will then define the insertion axis of the milling. That's what the red is.